There's a strange frustration a lot of millennials share, but rarely say out loud. You try to budget. You track your spending. You open the spreadsheet. You download the app. And for a moment, it feels responsible. But then, nothing really changes. You still feel tight. You still feel anxious before bills hit. You still feel like one unexpected expense could throw everything off. So eventually, budgeting starts to feel pointless. Not because you don't care. Not because you're reckless, but because the effort doesn't seem to buy you relief. Today, we're going to talk about why budgeting feels ineffective for so many millennials, not as a personal failure, but as a structural mismatch between how money advice works and how modern adult life actually functions. This is Millennial Money. Let's break it down. My name is Zach, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about why financially responsible people still feel financially stressed. People who do budget, who do track their money, who do try to be intentional, and yet still feel like stability never fully arrives. They're not ignoring their finances. They're not pretending money doesn't matter. They're engaged. But the system they're using to manage money doesn't seem to change how the pressure feels. If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Because today, we're not talking about discipline. We're not talking about willpower. We're not talking about just sticking to the plan. We're talking about why budgeting often fails to relieve stress and what actually works instead. Budgeting was sold to us as a solution. The promise was simple. If you know where your money is going, you'll feel in control. If you plan ahead, you'll feel secure. If you follow the numbers, anxiety will go down. And in a different era, that promise worked. When most expenses were flexible, when fewer costs were locked in, when income covered more than just survival. Budgeting helped people make trade-offs, and trade-offs created choice. But here's the problem. Modern budgeting is trying to solve a different problem than the one millennials actually have. And because of that, it often feels like effort without relief. For many millennials, budgeting looks like this. You open your spreadsheet, you categorize everything perfectly. Rent, utilities, insurance, car, groceries, childcare, subscriptions. And then you look at the bottom line. There's nothing left to move. You're not deciding where to spend. You're documenting where everything already went. That's not planning. That's surveillance. And it creates a subtle psychological shift. Instead of budgeting creating control, it creates constant awareness without agency. You're hyper-aware of the pressure, but unable to relieve it. That's why budgeting starts to feel pointless. Not because the math is wrong, but because the structure is immovable.
Here's the uncomfortable truth. Budgeting only works when a meaningful portion of your life is flexible. But for many millennials, 70 to 85% of income is fixed. Rent doesn't negotiate monthly, childcare doesn't pause, insurance doesn't care how tight the month feels. Debt payments don't adjust to stress. When most of your money is locked in, budgeting becomes a tool for managing guilt, not for creating change. You're not choosing between options, you're managing constraints. And that's why people who budget diligently still say, I know where my money goes, I just don't feel better. They're not bad at budgeting. They're budgeting the wrong layer of the problem. This is where budgeting becomes emotionally exhausting, because when the tool doesn't work, you assume you must be the issue. I must not be disciplined enough. I should cut more. I must be missing something. But what's actually happening is this. Budgeting turns structural pressure into personal self-criticism. You see the numbers every day. You feel the constraint every day. And because the system doesn't move, the blame turns inward. That's why budgeting burnout is so common. Not because people don't care, but because caring doesn't create relief. Budgeting focuses on flow, but the modern problem is rigidity. Two people can spend the same amount of money and have completely different levels of stress. The difference isn't spending, it's how much of their life is locked in. Budgeting asks, where is the money going? But the better question is, how much of my life is already decided for me? Until you answer that question, budgeting will always feel like effort without payoff.
Let's be clear. This is not about abandoning responsibility. It's about switching what you're managing. Stop managing categories, start managing rigidity. Instead of tracking coffee, groceries, entertainment, start mapping what moves and what doesn't. Ask, what expenses are truly fixed? What can adjust slowly? What can actually change month to month? This immediately shifts stress from, why can't I stick to my budget, to which parts of my life are removing choice? That shift alone reduces shame. Reintroduce expiration into your financial life. Budgeting assumes permanence. Life doesn't. Start treating commitments as reviewable by default. Not, can I afford this forever? But, when does this get reconsidered? Pressure feels unbearable when it feels endless. Time limits restore relief, even before money changes. Build slack before you optimize. Budgeting often pushes optimization. Cut more, track better, tighten further. But what you actually need first is room to think. Ask, if something went wrong for 60 days, could I make decisions calmly? That space is slack, and slack is what makes every financial decision easier. Design money for the life you're living, not the one you imagine. Most budgets are designed for a calmer version of yourself, a less demanding season, a hypothetical future. But if your life includes high responsibility, limited time, and cognitive load, your money system has to absorb that reality. Otherwise, budget failures are just systems compensating for misalignment. The solution isn't guilt, it's alignment. Measure progress by calm, not compliance. Here's the final shift. If budgeting doesn't make you calmer over time, it's not working, even if the spreadsheet is perfect. Calm signals margin. Margin signals control. Control comes before wealth, not after.
From the outside, this might look slower, but this is how you rebuild stability without burning out. And zoomed out, budgeting didn't fail because you did. It failed because it was built for a different economic reality. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That usually means you're finally seeing the system, not blaming yourself inside it. Most people don't struggle financially because they're irresponsible. They struggle because nobody explained how normal adult life quietly changed, and how that breaks old advice. This channel exists to make that visible, and to help you adjust without panic, shame, or extremes. If you want calm, structured, long-term financial stability, subscribe. We don't chase shortcuts here. We build margin. We build control. I'll see you in the next one.